It's my privilege to introduce you guys and to kind of save the best for last when it comes to keynotes. We have the privilege of our CEO and co-founder joining us, Dr. Sridhar Vembu. He started.
Skip the doctor. I never use it.
Well, I mean, I'm sure it was hard-earned, but a very modest gentleman that very humble roots. And back in 1996, he and a couple of folks had a wild idea to build a software company almost out of the basement for the most part, and grow it into what we have today with the Zoho line, with the Manage Engine line, and of course the Web NMS platform as well. So what Sridhar wants to do is just kind of make some really exciting announcements about some of the products that we're introducing here today specifically, so you guys get a sneak peek, a world exclusive of some of our new exciting technology. And without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Sridhar Vembu.
Thank you. Thank you. The only thing in life I regret is getting that PhD. That's 5 years, completely useless. So if your kid, wants to do a PhD, discourage him or her because it's not useful. Not for anything in private business, okay? I'm serious. And I actually practice what I preach. Our company is very proud to hire high school students fresh, from high school. About 15% of our engineers have no degrees. Our 5-year goal, the plan I have set is majority of our employees should not have a college degree. That's the goal I have set. So I do practice what I preach. So this presentation, no MBAs were involved in this. Apologies to, where's our Rodrigo, Senior? He's hiding. So this is actually a very geek presentation. I apologize, but I don't apologize because that's what I am. So it's going to be the stuff that I'm most interested in, the technology, why we are here in Zoho, right? We want to invent the future. We want to build cool technology. That's why I show up at work every day. So I'm going to share with you what I see as the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years and where the cloud is heading, where Zoho is heading. Because this presentation should give you a roadmap of where we are investing our R&D in. So I want to first talk about how we see the cloud as 3 parts here. So there's, first I call what is the cloud of data. Cloud as a repository of data. It's just a vast database. And I mean database not just in the technical sense of structured data. It's your structured data, your documents, your entire history, logs, all of that. So it's lots and lots of data. That's what the first meaning of the cloud for me. Then you have the things that connect to the data, the cloud of devices. And that's where a lot of the changes in this industry are happening. And we now have, and then the third part, I talk about the cloud of context. This is the one that's the most interesting one from our Zoho point of view, that how these things play together. First, let's look at the data part. Traditionally, we think of a cloud service as a web service. The cloud is synonymous with the web. That's how it has been for a long time. But our new evolution in our thinking, in Zoho's thinking, is the cloud service is a database with an API, and a programmatic way to access the data. The API gives you a way to access it through a program, not just through a user. So that's the difference. You think of a web service as a database there and a browser that you're accessing, right? The evolution is now there's a cloud service that's a database with an API. And that's a key difference in our thinking, because that actually informs the rest of everything that we do. And that's where the cloud of devices come, because now increasingly, you don't have this one dominant system that's connecting to that cloud. It used to be that you have your browser or your client device, whatever it is, the dominant device, your laptop or your desktop, that you're connecting to it. But that has changed completely in the last 2 or 3 years. And it's an iOS world now, iPhone and iPad, that actually dominate our non-web traffic today, and closely followed by, of course, Android. And the one device we don't see a lot of is the Windows Phone, actually. So, and that's interesting. And I actually checked out just to see what's coming. I downloaded Windows 8. I had it set up. I tried it for about half an hour. I think it's going to be a bigger disaster than Vista, I predict. So, and of course, I'm happy about it. Of course, I'm not. I hope it's a bigger disaster than Vista, and I think it's Microsoft's gift to not only Apple. It's a gift to the whole industry. You can tell I don't like Microsoft a lot, right? So, as a customer, as a small business customer, make sure you don't let Microsoft chain you to their legacy. And Windows is not just legacy. Windows is albatross. So don't let them chain it to you, right? You can use Windows on the side, like we do, but don't make it, the center of the universe that it used to be. You don't want it also because you want Microsoft to be a normal company, not the monster that it was. It tried to be. So the way it is, the way that we make it happen is, we have to prepare for, in Zoho, we are very prepared, we are preparing ourselves for what we call the post-Microsoft era. Because if Windows loses the dominance, and I don't mean Windows goes away, it goes down to that 40% whatever market share, right? Then we have a post-Microsoft world. Because you don't have to be defined by what Microsoft does. And we are not in Zoho anymore. And just to give you a story, about a year ago, about 20% of our developers are on Mac. And at the end of this year, 80% of our developers are going to be on Windows. Last year, about 80% were on Windows. This year, 80% are going to be on a Mac. So that's how we have shifted. And I'll explain why we are doing that later in the presentation, why we did that. It's not just because we love Apple. There's some good reasons we are doing this. And what all this means, even if you don't believe in my particular religious point of view about Microsoft, this is really true. There is no standard client anymore. There's not a single way to access that cloud anymore. And most important, there is no dominant client anymore. There's not this one client that dominates 95% of the usage. It's not true today, and it's not going to be true in the future, ever. So, and that means really the cloud app is getting redefined for us. So it's, of course, the people, the social part. That's the inherent nature of the cloud, that it's inherently collaborative. It's inherently you relate with other people. The data, the API that I mentioned, the programmatic interface to the data. And then you have all the devices that you are connecting it through, your tablets, your smartphones, and the PC. And finally, the context. That's something that we put a lot of attention to. So this is what, all of this set of things is what defines the new generation of cloud app. And this is the foundation of how our R&D vision is. Our products are, really, our premise is this one equation here. And I'm going to explain each part of this and how this is helping us evolve Zoho, both from what you experience as a user, as well as Zoho as a platform. And the first thing is, when we separate this data part, the data and the API, and the client part, what we see is the client now, we are seeing them as apps. We're seeing a web app, we're seeing native apps, and that depends on the particular device that you are in. And it also depends on the different, what we call the contextual mixture of data and functionality. That's really important. So we are not going to ship the same product, the same app across all devices. It's going to be tailored to the particular device capability, what it can do best. And there's numerous examples you saw throughout the day. For example, our project management app, one good example, where the iPhone app and the Android app actually have voice notes taking capabilities that you include in your project notes, which your browser would not have typically, right? So this is the example of very different mixture of functionality. It also context dependent. Something where a real-time collaboration, editing, may not make sense when you are on a an iPhone. I mean, you're not typing with lots of other people, but it's very important in a browser context. So those are the kinds of things that we are doing, and we'll show, and I'll mention some more examples of this vision. And of course, the social collaborative features are built into these. So the apps, regardless of where you are, it's inherently social and it's inherently collaborative. And this is something that we are focusing a lot of R&D on, offering an extremely refined user experience. Traditionally, it's a very engineering-centric company, meaning we are code heads, we think about code all the time. But now, increasingly, our company's focus has shifted. A lot of our effort is now refining that experience. We don't want to launch anything unless it's really, really something that the experience is, the user experience is refined. This was not something that 5 years ago, as pure programmers, we would have thought of, but now we think about it a lot. And with this, I actually want to introduce one new app that exemplifies all of these things I'm talking about, the Zoho CRM for the iPad. I'm going to have actually Raju come up and demonstrate this, and then I'll talk about this a little more. Raju?
Many of you asked about our iPad solution this morning, and I'm actually glad to be showing it here. So today we are previewing this to the attendees here. It should be available soon. And again, as Sridhar mentioned, we are redoing the interface specifically for the iPad for pretty much every device. This morning we announced CRM availability on the Android. We already have a BlackBerry version as well as the iPhone version, and of course the web app. And this is how our CRM application looks on an iPad. Again, custom tailored. We have all the modules, about 8 or 9 of them, that you currently have on the mobile web app or any of the native apps. So these are the list of your contacts. I mean, if you want to just get the contact information, click on selecting the contact, you see the user information. Again, you see the notes, the tasks that you have. Say if maybe you want to refresh some data, well, just refresh it. It basically pulls that. If you want to add a note, just add the plus button, maybe add a title on the top, type some content, so that you can add notes, add tasks, events across all these applications. And each of these things you can get into the details. So I can tap on any of the contact information. All the information is right there. And if you want to edit the information, just tap the edit button and you have everything right there. You may want to change the contact owner and everything right there. That's the contact. Similarly, we have the lead information and all the leads. Every contact, every module here has a unique representation within the application. And if you have any custom views created, they all can be viewed on the side as well. Same is the case for potentials. I mean, the deal size in this case is about $10,000, so it's represented as a check. So like that, there is a visual representation of every entity. Again, that's something that you see with an iPad. And same case for the accounts. If you're looking at the account, there could be accounts with more than one contact, companies. So you can just scroll and see if there are any additional contacts in a company right there within the app. And then, of course, the cases. You can see that
interface, that's like a wallet.
Yeah, in this case, it's more like a wallet. See the cases, in this case, you have a case from the web, originated from the web, some from the phone, some from email, and of course, you can add notes and tasks and all of that. And there are various things that you can edit content, pretty much like the CRM app that you see. And of course, the events, any events that you see are available right there. Maybe you could have multiple events, and you'll see some neat things. And you could have multiple events, and all of them are represented right here within the app. There are various other modules, like the task module. You can view all the tasks and all the standard modules that you're used to, or the calls, even the incoming and outgoing calls. So the application is being fine-tuned. It should be available pretty soon. We wanted to give you a preview of the app here at the event. Of course, it works on the iPad. It is Retina ready, which means it looks great on the new iPad 3. And it should be available soon. So with that, I'll leave it to Sridhar.
And the interesting thing about this app, this exemplifies what I talked about. It's going to the same CRM database there, the backend, uses the APIs, but it's custom built for the iPad. And it's not just a wrapper around our web app. It just looks nothing like our web app at all. It doesn't even look anything like the iPhone app because that form factor is different. So we are exploiting that iPad form factor to give you something very different experience. And the reason why this is all important is this is what I talked about specifically in the CRM app context, the data, API, and a very optimized user experience. Now we are showing this in the CRM first, but this is the direction you can expect Zoho to be going in the next few years, few months, few years. The same exact type of an equation where every service is adopting this type of a paradigm. So we want to optimize the user experience, refine it for every single type of device that you are on. Hopefully not ever Windows, but all the other ones. Yes, this is both, actually both mixed together. So that's what the next topic is, that cloud of context. But here we are actually, part of the context here is the device context. It's not the user context, it's particular device you're on. We want to offer a very refined user experience. That's what we showcased with this. And that should be launching soon. And we are, our fastest growing teams in our company are the whole mobile development teams. We now have about 60 developers on it, and within a year, we'll have more than 100. So we are working furiously on getting all of our apps on this type of a paradigm. So this is the real meat of my presentation, where I'm going to talk about that context, how that determines what our apps are. And this context is a keyword for how Zoho is evolving as a platform. We started with a set of discrete apps. Initially, if you asked 3 years ago, none of them are integrated with each other. Pretty much they were all siloed. And then we started to integrate. And now we have done, I would say we are about 50% of the way through all our integrations that we want to do. And we are launching more and more. Every month we are doing more integration. And our ultimate vision here is Zoho evolving as what we term as a business operating system. Well, the operating system that's sitting in your device is something that controls the device. But this is something that you run your business on, where your data, your users, all the context, all of that is present there. That's what our business operating system means. And it's delivered as APIs for further addition of value. And it's also delivered optimized for each of your devices. So that's what our, the apps are, this equation applies, where you have the people, data, or APIs, and the device optimized experience. And the platform is basically taking the same data and APIs and run it through Zoho Creator or your other preferred development tool. Any of that will work, but we are going to actually support everything through Zoho Creator, so that you can create custom apps on top of all of your data in Zoho through our APIs. So you can integrate, for example, we already provide pre-integrated solutions, but you may want to perform custom integration. Every business is going to have their own customization, and that's our beginning of the platform. Again, we have showcased these capabilities with CRM and Creator first. We are extending that. Zoho Creator itself, you heard a lot about it today. We have some really exciting things coming out there. And all of the services are supporting APIs now, and they're being fed into Zoho Creator as we speak. And I want to emphasize, we integrate so that customers don't have to. We think of one of the big savings from Zoho is not just the cost savings from your initial license. It's the integration work that you don't have to do. Because often those things would be 5, 10 times the software license fees. Actually, in most IT, that's really true. You paid $1 in software license fee, you spend maybe $5 on integration. So we want to pre-integrate as much as we can so that you save on that. You still are going to do some integration. It's inevitable because every business is going to require something custom. We're going to make it as easy as possible, and we're going to pre-integrate as much as we can. And with our Zoho Creator, we are unleashing a next generation of development productivity. That's our key goal in that, and we have some really new developments coming. The The language is getting a major makeover, our Deluge language, scripting language. That's something that I'm personally part of. And so we will see a massive boost in development productivity. As part of it, we have actually done a lot of language research in programming languages, so we can make a language accessible to power users rather than just professional programmers. And we have done some interesting things in language that you will hear about the rest of the year. And we have Zoho Reports, which is slowly coming up as a business intelligence platform of Zoho. All of the dashboards, all of the reports are being fed through, generated by Zoho Reports. And we have a unique paradigm there where we are integrating, we are doing two kinds of analytics. The traditional business intelligence, what we call the statistical or aggregation analytics, where you integrate a lot of, you statistically summarize the data, or that's one kind of reporting. We also have the search-based, what we call navigational intelligence. That is where you actually, say I search for a particular customer name. I want to get the 360-degree view of all my interactions from CRM, from my email, from my documents, all of what price quotes I sent that customer, all of that in one place. And that is part of our reporting technology. So we also want to generate specific queries from the data. So let's say I have a customer name and an internal, let's say a support tech name. Then I want to pull all of that particular support tech's interaction with that particular customer and generate a report out of that. So these are the kinds of innovations that we are working on right now. And that's where the Zoho Reports really comes in. And so we say the Zoho platform, our goal is it's really built for business. It's not, this is where we really differentiate with Google. We think that their whole plan of this Google Plus and the original, the Buzz they tried, all of this, to us, it does not fit business purpose because there are all kinds of privacy implications there that I believe Google is not, should be more sensitive about. They are not. So we actually, in Zoho, we have taken the stance that we are never going to have any kind of ad-based business model. We are going to have only our free is truly free. That means we are not actually scanning your data and we are not selling it to somebody outside. Your data never leaves the Zoho data center. That's something that we'll guarantee. So definitely not for any kind of a marketing or ad purposes. This is where we think that Google's business apps, their business story is incomplete in this sense. So we are built for business, and we are optimized for your choice of device. As I mentioned, you will see a lot more of innovation in this, whether you're on a PC, your smartphone, whether iPhone, Android, or even Windows Phone. If it takes off, we are going to support it. And we are going to actually have, of course, the iPad that we are doing a lot of development on. We have a very dedicated team now for the iPad that's doing a lot of development. So you will see a lot of all those coming up. And we want to support you on every device that's possible. And we want to dissolve the app boundaries. This is where the other part of the context comes in. People often ask, why are you guys doing so many apps? Why are you doing the Office Suite here, the CRM there, the email, and all of this? Because we fundamentally believe this boundary between databases and documents, between business apps and productivity apps, between collaboration, those boundaries will dissolve. Like I mentioned this whole search example, the analytics using search, and reporting with data pulled from different sources. So those kinds of things is the cornerstone to the next generation of true business productivity, IT productivity. The current boundaries that you are used to today, that there's Office Suite here, there's an email app here, there's SharePoint there, I believe those boundaries are a limitation of current generation of technology. There's nothing inherent that says that 5 years, 10 years later, these boundaries will be preserved. The apps look the same way that they look today. So to us, the true meaning of this contextual integration is the app boundaries start to dissolve. I call it you are liberating the data from a particular app, being slave to an app. This presentation is, even though it was made with a Zoho Show editor, it should be able to go wherever the context dominates. My email app should be able to use it. And through an API, I should be able to pull components from it and integrate into various other apps. My particular document I put together could have points from my slide. My spreadsheet should have components that I can embed in my website. In fact, that we do that in our Zoholics site. If you go to Zoholics and you look at the agenda, that actually is coming from Zoho Sheet. It's delivered directly from Zoho Sheet. So those are the kinds of, what I mean by the liberate data from being slave to an app. And all of this is done without the, export, import, all of that stuff. The data is there. It's easily, you can pull it from any app context. And you have seen the CRM and the mail and the spreadsheets and reports. That's an example that we have talked throughout the day about it. And you've seen the projects, the documents, the invoices. And increasingly, we don't, what we call the CRM app is not just CRM anymore. What we call project is not just project anymore. There's a lot of things pulled from different apps. And you will see more and more, this will grow. At some point, we would just stop caring about what the app is. We just focus on your particular use case and the particular data. And I mentioned that unified search. This is something we are investing heavily in. This actually came up a couple of sessions. There's one customer who talked about, I want a true information system. What you have now are apps, a lot of apps. A true information system in her worldview is exactly this, where I am able to look at my data, regardless of which app created it, across all the apps, and also perform actions on it. That's something that we are investing heavily. That's the power of the APIs. So I pull some data, let's say I do the search where I give a support tech name, I give a customer name, I pull all of the tickets or all of the interaction that particular tech had with the customer. I want to take action, say respond to that customer, or look at current, even pull from accounting system to see whether the customer has overdue invoices, so that when there is a support interaction, you can also send a reminder. So those are the kinds of things that I can perform contextually. Without leaving that search box, I should be able to perform these actions. So that's why we are doing all these apps, because we think we can enable really another generation of power in terms of integration, in terms of search. So expect a lot more from us. We have about 1,000 engineers working away in Zoho on all these problems, about 100 of them on mobile alone, and we are expanding our team about 20-25% a year. This year will grow another about 200 people, development alone. So expect a lot more from us. So this is my last point. I mentioned why we are switching to the Mac. It's ultimately this user experience. I myself, I have to admit, 2-3 years ago, I put together a presentation, and I actually would not care. Fonts will mismatch, bullets, alignment. I just had no eye at all for, no taste. As Steve Jobs would put it, I had no taste. So, and I realized about 2 years ago that this is going to be important, that we are not going to be able to sell software if you don't get that aesthetics right, the design part right. You can write all the code in the world, but if we don't get that right, we are not going to delight our users. So that's kind of a eye-opening moment for us. And our entire company, followed my culture, which is, we would write code, we would, slap on some UI. And this came from that idea that the user interface is something you do last. That used to be our culture until about a year and a half ago. Now, in the new Zoho, we start with the user experience first. We design the user experience, then only we actually design the rest of the product. And this is why I'm moving so many of our developers to the Mac, because that inherently, once you are experienced in it, you see the world in a different way. I wouldn't have believed it 2 years ago, but I do believe it now. I do see it, which is why now we're spending the money replacing most of our Windows machines. We are going to have some Windows machines for test, but our primary development is going to be on Mac from now on. And the first fruit of that, you saw the Zoho CRM new interface. And objective data, we launched it, about 4 months ago. The sales instantly jumped about 50-60% the moment we launched it. So the objective evidence is that the customers love it. Yeah, 50% jump immediately within like a month and a half. So, and we do believe it sets a new standard in this industry for CRM, and we are working on more and more of this. You will see that same thing, that all of Zoho will have that that experience, that CRM, that new bar set by CRM. We still think many of the Zoho apps, for example, Zoho Creator, I still think it's clunky. I don't like it now. What it is, the interface of it, the functionality is good. So we are working on all of that with that CRM user interface in mind. You will see a consistent, refined experience of all of the Zoho suite. And that's this year's 2012. It's a major priority for us, getting to that refined, consistent user experience. So this is how I conclude. We want to be the business software with taste. As part of it, I got taste. I want our Zoho suite to get taste, and I want our customers to have taste. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sridhar. As we wrap up the day, we just want to make one quick thank you to the gentleman that really helped us put this together, Mr. Ramon Ray, Small Business Technology, really helped us out, really put together this event. And Laura Letis as well. So if you guys would stand up.
Stand up, please.
Please. Laura? Somewhere. I think Laura's working hard outside.
I mean, Ramon is actually critical to this thing in more ways than I can express. In fact, the idea for this whole event, I met him about a year ago in New York, and I looked up his site, and that's when I got the idea. Actually, he could help us put together an event like this, because we didn't know how to do it, and frankly, that's not part of our core competence. Ramon is the one who has helped us figure this out, and he has done all the hard work here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.